After 6 years of bullet journaling, I know exactly what I want from my notebooks. The problem is I can't always find it. As I've learned more and more and tried different notebooks, I know there's two main things that I'm always looking for now. One is great paper. For me, it's the most important thing, honestly. I need it to be able to hold on to whatever I'm throwing at it, whether that's a gel pen, an inky pen, a marker, a fountain pen, anything like that. I don't want ghosting, and I definitely don't want it to bleed through onto the other page. The other thing that I just feel like this is what a perfect notebook is. Has nice thick paper, great designs, and page numbers already built in. And I'm so excited today because we're going to be checking out the Basics notebook from Journal Junkies, which has almost everything that you may want as a part of your perfect notebook. Now, Nancy has gone ahead and done all the research from what she's seen, being a part of the community for as long as she has, and she said, okay, I'm gonna strip out what we don't need, I'm gonna only add what we do need, and I'm gonna give you the exact notebook that you need to do exactly what you want in your bullet journal. So let's go ahead and check out all of these features today, where we'll also be doing a pen and swatch test, just creating a weekly spread using, I don't know, my huge arsenal of stationery and stamps that I have behind me to see exactly how well this notebook actually does. Before we get started, I wanna let you know I was looking at the analytics of my channel here on YouTube, and I noticed that over 75% of you are not subscribed to the channel. Go ahead, get a part of the crew, hit that subscribe button. That way I can notify you when I have new videos out, and we can continue to talk and share our love for stationery, notebooks, work bullet journaling, just having a good time. So without further ado, let's get into this notebook review. Hey, that rhymed. I always love it when individuals and business owners take things into their own hands after seeing different needs within the community, and Nancy over at Journal Junkies had done so. She was tired of seeing all of these expensive notebooks that had like almost all of the qualities of a perfect notebook. So she decided to go ahead and just make it herself. So this is going to be the Basic Journals from Journal Junkies. It's a $26 notebook. This is an A5 size, and it comes in 6 colors total. We have it here in yellow today. It's also in navy, blush, green, silver, pale blue as well. What I love about this, aside from being 160 GSM papers, are the page numbers. It's one of the biggest things missing from this community right now, and having really great paper, but then having built-in page numbers. So having them here is really fantastic if you're a hardcore bullet journal user, especially if you're using an index. What I love about this notebook, and when you read about it on the website, Nancy's like, look, no frills. I'm giving you what you need, as much paper as I possibly can, so you're not going to find like the nameplates in here. You're not going to find any index. It's going to just start you off on page 1 over here once you open this things up after this kind of introduction page. So if you're the person that likes to write your name in your journal, grab yourself a stamp, grab yourself some materials, write your name in the front here so people can find it if they need to. Otherwise, you can drop right into it. We scroll all the way to the back here. You're going to find your last pages that you're going to have is going to be 160 right here in the back of the notebook. Before you open it up, hey, you finished your journal. Here's all the details. You've got the pocket in the back too, so if you are a fan of the pockets in the back of notebooks, they're here for you. I've never really found a use for one personally. I've actually, in my last journal, did a little surgery and turned this into a dot grid layout, little cheat sheet in the back. So maybe do that again. Inside of here, you got the 2 page holders and also the pen loop built on here with the elastic closure. And then you're good to go. This is sewn in here too, so that's not going to fly out, which that's never been an issue for me. It's always been the little page holders that end up popping out of the top of the notebooks. So what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be taking a full pen test on this. I love doing pen tests in notebooks. It's just one of those things where I feel like if I can give you a hint if this notebook is good or not, I'd rather do it myself versus you having to buy something and then, you know, go through the whole process of then getting it and realizing, oh crap, this isn't quite what I wanted. So I've grabbed myself all kinds of different materials today. My arsenal changes as I go on, but we've got all kinds of stuff. We've got pens, we've got brush pens, we've got fountain pens and highlighters and inky pens. I have stamps here. We'll be trying a few different versions. You have an oil-based, a handmade one, and then we're also going to be using it with VersaFine ink. It's a little bit probably more what people are using inside of their bullet journals. I also have some other dip pens and things we're going to try, and markers, and we're just going to have a lot of fun. And so I'll create a weekly spread using some of this, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at the opposite pages to see how well these held up. Oh, I also have watercolor too, you know, the whole arsenal today. So let's go ahead and start planning out our page and trying out all of the different items that we have as a part of this pen test. And let's see if the Journal Junkies Basic Notebook is going to hold up.
this out using all kinds of stuff. I filled up my whole basket of different types of pens. We had some inks inside of here too. I really wanted to give it a full spread because, you know, after doing this for so long, I know like certain pens just work, right? We don't have to worry about like my Signo DX or anything like that because those gel pens are great. But I like to put like heavier things on here, things that I don't use as much that you might be using, stamps and whatnot. So I'll have to remember what I used where, but let's go ahead and just flip this page first and just take a look how everything held up over top of here. So I'll tell you, everything is actually looking really good. There's only 2 spots that I can see on here that have a little bit of ghosting, and that actually has to do more with the material that I use than necessarily the paper. So this Midori stamp that's on here, it's very faint actually. You can not, I mean, you can kind of see it, I think, if you're looking through everything that's on here, but you can barely see it on here. That's an oil-based ink that's used inside of that stamp. So that always tends to bleed through a little bit depending on the paper. There's such slight ghosting though. That just goes to show you like how great this paper actually is. And then up over here, there is like a little tiny bit of ghosting here. I'm trying to see what that is. So that was this stamp here with some watercolor over top of it. So not too bad, right? That's ink, and then there's watercolor and everything else. Even this dark color over here didn't even come through even just a bit. So it's always interesting to kind of take a look at that. Even some of the pens that I've used in the past that are heavier, right? So a lot of these that are inside of here that I was using are ones from Baronfig, right? You're using fountain pens inside of here. You're using the Vision Elite, which in most of my other reviews, they bleed or they come through a little bit, but there's barely anything on here at all. Maybe a handful of little dots. If I'm really looking hard here, you can see like a handful of things, but not really a lot, which is pretty fantastic considering it comes through pretty strong on the others. All right, this side we did a little bit more damage than the others, but we can talk about why we probably did. So we can start at the top here and just take a quick look. That's going to be more of the ink with the watercolor over top of it. So when I got towards the end here, I went heavier with water. So anytime that you're using a stamp and you watercolor over top of it, if that ink isn't totally dry, sometimes you'll see like the outlines a little bit, which is what we got here. This is super common inside of most notebooks, so I'm not super worried about it. The one thing I am slightly concerned about here is just the fountain pen. So this was using Ferris wheel press ink, and then I was using my Kakanori nib here, which does lay down ink heavier than others. It looks great on the page, not a lot of feathering, barely at all on here, but we can see on this page here that when I put it down a bit heavier, it did go through the page. Now it's not bleeding through, right? It didn't come on to this other side here, but it definitely came on thicker than it did in other places. And then the only other place that we saw any type of ghosting was actually over on this side here with these bulbs. So this is a handmade stamp that I made. This was using the VersaFine Clair ink, which is great ink to use, but it does soak up more ink on top of this rubber here. So when you do go to lay it down, it comes on a bit thicker. But really what it was not even so much the stamp. You can see a little bit of that. It was actually what I used over top of it, which is interesting because I used the Equaline brush pen. So I used like a glitter pen here. I used the click art pen here, but this was the watercolor brush pen here. So that really interestingly came through, but mostly came through where I put down the ink. So it's kind of like I was talking about up here, that you'll get like the outline of the ink because it's kind of like, think about it, it's like already wet on the page, right? Even though it was dry, it didn't smear, it's still not fully dry on here. So putting the wet over top of the wet ink gave us a little bit of an outline here. So it happens. I'm not mad at the paper for it. I mean, I think it actually handled everything else really well. I mean, think about how much we put on here. We have acrylographs, fountain pens, watercolor, all of that. So I'm actually really happy with how this paper handled that. So pretty fantastic. I gotta tell you, I'm really excited about everything that we did here today. So that is going to be the full review here of the Journal Junkies Basic Journal. Like I mentioned, 6 different color options for your cover. You've got page numbers, dot grid, and 160 GSM paper that can really handle a lot that we got going on here.
I'm pretty pleased with everything that happened as a part of this notebook. We got a lot thrown at this and it handled it like a pro. So if you want to check out more about this notebook, make sure you head over to the Journal Junkies website. Everything for you right here. I'll also put direct links for you down in the descriptions below, and that way you can check it out for yourself and say, you know what? I'm gonna give this Basics Journals a try because I think it has exactly everything that I need. As always, it's great to have you here as a part of the crew. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe, and that way I can notify you when I have more notebook reviews and also bullet journal and stationery fun videos that we have coming up as always. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll talk to you next time. Happy planning.